Hi, I'm Dr. Terra DeFoe, and you're watching On the Floor. Today, we will meet a man who found himself in a cycle of incarceration starting as a teenager until he realized enough was enough. After 4 long years and countless employment rejections, he applied his skills he learned in prison to create employment opportunities, generating almost $250,000. Now, that same man works to create employment opportunities to other returning citizens through his nonprofit, which was birthed from an idea between he and his former cellmate. We're talking about Rick Speck. Rick, thank you for taking this opportunity to talk to me today. Want to just get people to feel your side of the story when we talk about returning citizens and how they come back to the community and some of the things that may be missing. What landed you in the Department of Corrections?
Well, I think for me, a lot of my issues started when I was younger, right? The oldest of 6, I'm basically an only child from my mom and dad. My mom got remarried, had 3 more kids. My dad got remarried, had 2 more kids. But for me, it was just not dealing with a lot of these issues that arose from having, a stepfather that provided the necessities, but not necessarily the emotional.
Yes.
And so being angry and confused and growing up with, my siblings having 2 parents. Everyone had 2 parents in the home, it seemed like, but me, right? And so we were from the east side of Detroit, and we ended up moving to East Detroit. My parents wanted a better opportunity for us. I just never really felt like I fit in there, right? So here was this, half Mexican kid coming from a all-black neighborhood to an all-white neighborhood, and never really knew who I was, right? And so it was confusing, and I wanted attention, but I was also angry, so I acted out. I fought a lot. I was kicked out of multiple junior highs, multiple high schools. And so I turned to alcohol, I turned to drugs to kind of mask that pain, right? And then I found out that I could also make money and it could be lucrative, right? And so that was where a lot of my issues started, was all the way back, probably 6th grade, where it really started to escalate, and then finally in high school, dropping out. I got in trouble, my first felony, and I was supposed to go into the Navy delayed entry program. And so they wouldn't give me the HIDA Act, the Homes Youthful Training Act, right? And so my felony was gonna stick with me and I wasn't gonna be able to go into the military. So I guess at that point I kind of figured like, well, I'll just be the best darn criminal you made me out to be, right? And for years that was how I operated, on the fringes. And then I think the first time when I got a dose of reality was when I used to live what used to be here.
Wow, so we're standing at what used to be your home.
Yeah, I used to live here on Devonshire. One of my really good friends owned the whole home. And he lived upstairs and I lived in the lower flat. And this is where I met the mother of my children, where my first daughter was born, and I wasn't ready, right? And so again, I kind of still stayed in the streets. Now I'm just justifying I'm hustling because I got a kid, right? Now I gotta hustle harder, right? I got a mouth to feed. When the reality is it was selfish. I liked the lifestyle. I liked what I was doing, how I was doing it. And once I came to grips with that, which was much later, then I kind of started to understand more about me, And so I got the probation the first time around, the tether, I got a drunk driving on tether, violated numerous times to where they eventually sent me to prison. And then from there, I committed a federal offense, I went to federal prison. And so that 15-year sentence took me away from my kids. They were 2 and 6 when all this happened.
So now you get the word that you're coming home, and what is it like? What happened that day that you got the word that you were coming home?
Oh, there was a lot of tears, tears of joy. It was funny because I had a family inside prison. I had a group of men with a program I was a part of, that they were my family. And so, you know, I shared it with them. I called home to share with my kids. You know, probably first and foremost was my kids. You know, and I called my parents after, and it was like, there was this excitement, but there was this fear, right? I'd been home before. And unfortunately, I kept going back to prison. So, you know, I feel like this last time I could honestly say, when asked, I ain't going back, right? I couldn't answer that question. Honestly, if the first time when my mom was like, I know you ain't going, well, Mom, I'm gonna try. She said, what do you mean you're gonna try? Like, you ain't going back? I couldn't tell her that. There wasn't a change, right? Like, I was still selling dope in the joint. So the only thing changed was the location, right? And there wasn't a lot of mentors at that time, right? That were helping me, and that's what was the change. Having mentors, you know, having these men that have done all of this time, and they changed and are helping other men like them, right? Just coming into the system because they want something better. Right? And so it took some time to find some folks like that wanted to invest in me and, you know, basically educate me, right? Like, there's conventional and unconventional ways of education. But they gave me books to read, right? On more than just nonfiction, right? Like, or fiction rather. It was like introducing me to something different. For me, it was about Bible studies. Like, that kept me kind of centered. Not kind of, it did. It kept me morally centered. And I think that those are the things that made the difference, right? Like, I learned to forgive myself. And once that happened, you know, a lot of those feelings of shame and guilt, they were able to also go away. So I didn't have a desire, you know, to use cocaine the way I used to. I didn't have a desire to put money before, you know, doing good.
Right. So now you're home, and you come back to the community in which you was raised. You come back to the community in the area in which you know, was your stomping ground, and you realize, you know, this is not what I left. Something is wrong, and I gotta see how I fit in to fix it. When did that moment happen for you?
So, oddly enough, when I came home, you know, we're right here at Mac in Devonshire. I lived on the other side of Mac when I came home. So I was in Grosse Pointe Park, living with my baby brother.
So you're on this side of
I come in,
Mac,
I'm on this side.
On this side, and then
I come home, I'm on the pretty bougie side of Mac.
On the pretty side of Mac.
Yeah, folks would be like, oh, you're from Grosse Pointe. I'd be like, no,
I'm from the other side.
Yeah, I live there, I'm not from there. But for me, coming home, you know, making this transition, I had found meaning and purpose, believe it or not, in prison. I had found peace of mind, which had eluded me my whole life, right? Basically my whole life. I never had peace of mind to where I was okay with Rick, right? And I began to realize that I'm okay, and those things that I used to feel and think, that has nothing to do with me, right? That was my parents' issues, that was their stuff, and that ain't got nothing to do with Rick, right? I was just a kid that was confused and had parents that didn't know how to communicate so well, right? Other than to talk poorly about each other, right? That was their communication.
Which is...
And then you hear nothing but negative, and then you hear, you're just like your father. Or you hear, you act just like your mother.
Exactly.
Right? So it's all negative.
Yeah.
Negative kind of, and so there wasn't good communication, so consequently, you know, as a young man, I was a womanizer, right? I never had a healthy relationship. I never placed a value on a relationship like I do today. You know, I'm happily married today. I have a partner that's there 24/7 for me through the good and the bad.
So you're back home, and now how do you serve your community?
Well, you know, when I was inside, I was a part of a group of 25 men at Cooper Street Correctional that started a nonprofit, or not started, but a chapter of a nonprofit, whose goal was to create mediators and peacekeepers on the prison yard. And so I began to be trained and get these new tools and skills, and then we trained general population. So I took on a leadership role there as the vice chairman and eventually the chairman for years to develop this, and I found meaning and purpose. So when I came home, myself and 2 other returned citizens, Mario Bueno and Cameron Colts, we started a nonprofit called Luck Inc., Leaders Under Correct Knowledge. And what we did was we began to work with youth because we knew how young we all were. You know, Mario was 16 when he was incarcerated. Cam was like 17 or 18 when he was incarcerated. You know, I was young at one point when I was incarcerated before I kept going in and out. But when we came home, you know, we found this meaning and purpose in there. And so when we came home, we began to work with these youth because we had meaning and purpose, right? And then years into it, through mentoring from folks with the city, you know, Adrian Tonone, Rico Razzo, folks like yourself, you know, we began to transition home and learn what it meant to return, right? And we went to college, and I tried to get a job, that didn't work. You know, I started a business, I became an entrepreneur, hiring folks just like me to do demolition work, painting, remodeling.
Yes.
And so once we learned how to come home, then we began to teach other men and women like ourselves what it was like to come home. What it was like to order a cheeseburger 15, 20 years ago, and today, you know, there's all these different fabulous buns, cheeses, and this kind of topping, and that kind of topping, and how do you want your burger cooked? And you're just sitting there in shell shock thinking, I just want a cheeseburger, like, when did this become so complicated, right? And folks, if I didn't share that with them, they might think it's only them that don't know how to order a cheeseburger.
Exactly.
Right? They might think that when they get anxiety in a room that has a lot of people, that they're the only one that feels that way, right? Or how they feel ashamed when they're trying to find a job and they have no work history. You know, what that feels like.
Right.
You know, not having a resume. And so getting creative and learning how to take whatever skills we had and transfer them to real-time skills that could actually get somebody employed. So I kept giving and giving of myself. And I remember this one person said, Rick, you can't save the world. Right? I was always busy, going here, going there. And I said that the funny thing is, I ain't trying to save the world. I'm just trying to save myself.
Wow.
Right? And that's what helped me save myself, was servant leadership, was giving back, right? I never came home and been a part of a community. I didn't know what that was like. So I came home and, you know, I got on Janae Ayer's task force, right? I started going to ceasefire call-in, seeing how I could help, just trying to be a part of the community.
Right.
And I guess I was lucky in the sense that I met the right people and had mentors, and now we just want to pay it forward by doing that. And so from doing that work, you know, we went in like year 2 from like doing like 6,000 in services to like the next year we did $250,000 in contracting.
Wow.
Right? Where we provided services to youth, in River Rouge, C.B. Sabbath Middle School, and we also were working with men and women
Which is
coming home
actually
from
named
prison.
after my great uncle.
Right? I know, right? Small world. I mean, who would have thought? And so doing that work and being a community partner with the ACLU at one point for talking about second chances for juvenile lifers, had a chance to meet some football players, Anquan Bolden, DeAndre Levy, Carrie, all these folks that are part of the Lions organization. And shortly after that, the ACLU told me about a position, told me I should apply as a community organizer doing Smart Justice for the Smart Justice campaign. And so I did, and the only job I've had since I've been home is with the ACLU, and I got that in year 4 of being home, right?
Wow.
And so I give back still through the nonprofit, still through Luck, helping men and women and young people like myself. And then through the ACLU, they are pouring more skills, more tools into me, right? To help me to learn how to advocate better for folks just like me. And it's been amazing.